So the Ryan 610 sounds richer, fuller, has a more natural, nicer image, while we are listening to the Archlute from CD. However, the volume is set to plus 6 dB compared to the AOs. And I think this is definitely much louder now than these speakers. So let's just retry this with lower volume. Let's go back one track. Okay, now the volume is more like the same as the AOs was. Imaging is still better. Now transient response is faster. But we are hearing much more modern drivers. So these drivers were really fine-tuned for efficiency, speed. I mean not efficiency, but resolution, because they're relatively low efficient, 88 dB only, and these are 91 dB efficient. But the movement of these cones for the Ryan, the Nomex cones, is much more precise, really finely engineered, really new technology. And we have the tweeter, it extends out for the Ryans really far, well beyond 20 kHz. While for the full range drivers, extension is not so far out because we use visor cones and paper visor cones. But this is very surprising now that from CD, on CD the Ryans are better than the AOs in every respect, even musicality and mid-range. While from the vinyl, musicality and mid-range, the AOs were clear winner. So they have a clear preference. So the Ryans really like the modern sound, digital era, while the AOs are more the vinyl speakers. But this is a very easy to reproduce material that we are listening to. We only hear one instrument, although it has many overtones, but it's the only source. While when we were listening to vinyl, we listened to an octet, which is a group of 8 musicians, That was more complicated material. So right now, for the Italian Archlute, the Ryans clearly give a much better natural feel. It really sounds, if I close my eyes, like someone playing an Archlute quietly. And actually I'm listening to relatively low volume right now. It's early in the morning. And why do I have my CD in this cover? Because I removed all my CDs into these plastic covers, so put the front page, back page there, and they take up a fraction of the space and weight what they do, so I can keep them in a bin instead of having a full shelf full of them. As you can see, I have my shelves full with vinyl. So space is really an issue, especially as most of the time, 98% of the time I listen to vinyl. I rarely ever listen to CD, because vinyl just sounds so much more natural, so much more connecting. And CDs and digital in general, while it sounds, you get like resolution and detail, and there's a balance for the tone, but it does not really get to you as vinyl does. So when you listen to vinyl, you are connected to the performance. When you listen to CD, you connect to the equipment, so it's something very different. Now we are listening to the Mirage. The Mirage actually presents a more analog sound than the Ryans did. It's a little bit like shifting to vinyl from CD. There is less detail. The detail level was clearly greater with the Ryans. And when the picking went really fast, it got really combobulated a tiny bit at places. But there's more shine to the sound. When you listen to a real live flute, you have that, what I can describe as shine projecting from the instrument. We have that occurring now, and before we didn't. So it really was still close to a lute being played, because it had a dimensionality, a coherence, and everything was correct, but now we hear this, what I could call shine or life, or the event happening now. So wow, Okay, so this went clearly much deeper than the Ryans did. So we have a more of a fullness in the bass. So actually now what we hear is as if the recording was better recorded. It's like listening to different recordings with the Ryans and the Mirage. With the Ryans we listen to a more cool, clinical, more digital recording, and now we are listening to a more natural recording with the Mirage. And here the acoustic sounds very different. It sounds as if it's played in my room, while with the Ryans we were transported to a different room acoustics. But even though I could perceive that acoustics and it was really spectacular, but it felt unnatural. So now I'm really surprised, because listening to these three speakers last night and the previous days, the Mirages were clearly chugging behind and really eclipsed by these two guys in the center. However, I haven't used the Mirages in ages, and I did notice that they really need a lot of playing to come alive. But that's true for all three of these speakers. I haven't used them in a long while. Actually, I haven't used the AOs for the longest. They haven't been hooked up for the past 5 years. I mean the drivers, because the cabinets were just finished last week. Ryans, I think last time I used them was about 2 years ago. So they've been sleeping. And I've been during the past, actually a year ago, until a year from now, in the past, I've been using them quite heavily after the crossover was rebuilt. So in 2018-19 they were used a lot. And now we can hear the strings sounding much fuller because we have a deeper bass response. Okay, that's it for now.